In and out a few times. We'll do this 3 times. Just breathing in and out. In and out. Now, the first important question of the day is how many of you would have forgotten to breathe if I hadn't reminded you just now? Anybody? No, thank goodness. You know, when people say yes to me, I get worried because then I feel like I have to follow them around all day and say, hey, honey, have you been breathing? Make sure you keep breathing. It's important. The reality is, none of you need me to tell you to breathe because we do it 20,000 times a day, unconsciously, with no effort whatsoever. Our body does it for us. We don't have to put our attention there. So just for fun, let's do a little contrast. I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to put my timer on because I don't want to make this too long for anybody. I'm going to ask you in just a moment to hold your breath with me for 30 seconds, 30 whole seconds. And we'll hear a little timer go off. So let's go. Everybody, everybody breathe. We made it through 30 seconds. It's funny, I did this exercise the other day with Luis Chapa, who is this amazing opera singer. So he did not even experience the 30 seconds. You know, he's got such a long capacity to hold notes. So who preferred holding your breath to breathing? Was anybody like, oh, it was so fun to hold my breath? No. Which was easier? Breathing, right? To hold your breath is to pause the flow of life. To hold your breath is to pause the flow of life. So simply begin to notice what you may have forgotten. That you are being breathed 20,000 times a day. You are being breathed 20,000 times a day. And you have the power to pause this moment, this movement of life, but only temporarily. You might even notice some pain when you try to pause that moment. So just notice you are more connected than you have yet to notice to a force of life that moves through us all. Does that make sense to folks? That at every moment we are connected, we are breathing in, we are breathing out. We're just beginning to explore what I think about as little breath. Most of us in the personal development world want to change life by simply changing little breath. We go inside the bubble of our thoughts, our minds, our feelings, and we believe that we create the whole universe. Anybody ever heard that? I create all of my experience. I create the universe. You know, we have a lot of this in laws of attraction. Um, but only someone who's suffering from a sense of disconnection would even hope for this. What dancer would hope to create a whole dance by themselves? What singer would only want to sing by themselves for the rest of their days? We are made to co-create. If you doubt this, simply look at the fact that babies don't come from just one human. It requires two. Our fundamental act of creation is a collaborative act. So this is where a big breath comes in. At the same time as we breathe in and out in our own little cycle, all of life is also breathing in and out. The 7.5 billion people on the planet, the 3 trillion trees, the 8.7 millions of species of animals, the 361,000 square kilometers of oceans. Are you starting to feel me? The big breath, life, is breathing so that we can breathe. all day long. We are part of something so much bigger than ourselves. This is big breath. We don't create prosperity alone. And while we can impact the cycle with our little breath, when we work with the system, we can create bigger shifts. In fact, some of you who know me know that recently I've been doing more and more intimate connections, groups where we become little breath together. We start to breathe together. And the power of 15 people gathered, the power of a small group, actually is so profound. So, how does money fit into this remembering? First thing we need to do is remember that this thing we call money is simply an idea that represents the movement of energy through our lives. Now, sometimes people confuse this and they think it's the actual energy. But here's what I want you to notice: two things. First, if you give a child, a 2-year-old, a $20 bill, or a 50 or 100 in the US, or in whatever country you're in, what's a 2-year-old going to do with that? They're going to write on it? Maybe. They're going to tear it up? Maybe. They're going to eat it? Maybe. But it's going to hold no value. They don't understand the idea yet. In fact, the brain is not even capable of holding that abstraction because our brains are growing till we're 22, 23 years old. So we know that this is just an idea that we've given to this piece of paper. The other way you might think about this is if you were to watch the river, and I live right by the river, so I'm often down there, and along floated a leaf, which is essentially paper. How many of you would say, wow, look how fast that leaf is swimming? Anybody? Anybody think the little leaf feet are swimming along really fast? In fact, no. The current, which is the energy, is pulling along those things that are paper. So we just notice that money is a representation of the movement of energy. There are so many different kinds of energy that move through us all day long from the moment we're born till we die. But for some reason, and we go into a lot of these in Prosperity Evolved, but here I'll just say that what we tend to do is we have deified money in our culture, often to basically make up for poor parenting. When we didn't get what we needed from our parents, we often make money to fill in, where we say, oh, I couldn't get the love or security I needed from my parents. If I just had enough money, I'd feel secure, or I'd feel safe, or I'd feel important. Most of the time when somebody comes to me and they say, I want to make $1 million, and I say, oh, cool, why? I have clients who make tons of money. One of my clients right now, $100 million a year business. So it's not unusual for somebody to want to make $1 million with me. But I always ask people why. And if somebody can't tell me the answer, I know that they've made money a substitute parent figure. So we'll see this one symbol then becomes the way we think we need to get our needs met. But in fact, we have all these other energies. We have the breath in and out, which I always start with that because it's something we carry with us. We have the cycle of life through our digestion. Our hearts beat 100,000 times a day. We cycle from dream to waking back to dream again. And we can affect the flow of energy in our lives. So notice your breath again. We'll play with this capacity to expand as we notice. Notice your breath again and simply see where your breath moves. Perhaps to the clavicle or the solar plexus. For some of you, it may be down into the belly. And at the first level, we always want to just notice without trying to change. Just want to see and be present. And just for fun, make a choice to deepen this just a little bit. Just a little bit. If you're breathing into your clavicle, see if you can drop your breath just a little bit. If you're breathing into your solar plexus, see if you can drop it down a little bit into the diaphragm. Notice that big breath meets small breath 20,000 times a day as you drop a little deeper, and that each breath is an act of trust that there will be another. Have you ever noticed how much you trust life to provide? How many people sit up at night worrying that I may not have another breath? That somehow the universe will forget to turn the oxygen making machine on, and all of a sudden we'll have nothing. In fact, trusting life is one of the most enduring things you do. So much so that it fades invisibly into the background, omnipresent yet unnoticed, as you focus your energy on more important things like the size of your thighs or the amount of money in your bank account. Right? We put a lot of focus. I may be being sarcastic there. So let's play. You all look very serious. Like, is he talking about the size of my thigh? Don't, these need to be smaller. These need to be bigger. We focus on all these silly things. So let's open the flow. We begin to activate the flow by simply noticing that it already is. When I talk to people so often, they tell me, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. And I go, oh, okay, you're stuck. Like, that's like, I can't move at all. Right? I'm stuck with money. And yet, if energy is moving through you, you're already moving. If you can notice a breath moving, if you can notice a dollar coming into your life and a dollar going out of your life, we can start to notice, and then notice we can start to deepen. We start to deepen by allowing ourselves to see the beauty in life. I want to read you a poem that one of my favorite authors, E. Cummings, wrote in 1950. And he's going to say God, but God for him was very wide and open. So if you need to change this word to mean something else, replace it with your own word. But E. Cummings wrote, I thank you, God, for this most amazing day, for the leaping greenly spirits of trees and a blue true dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I who have died am alive again today, and this is the sun's birthday, the sun up in the sky. This is the birthday of life and of love and wings and of the gay, great happening, illimitably earth. How should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing any, lifted from the know of all nothing, human, merely being, doubt, unimaginable you? Now the ears of my ears awake, and now the eyes of my eyes are opened. Hmm. How could we do anything but trust that life will meet us in the next breath? That there will be a breath that follows that until there's not. And then we don't have to worry about it because we're done. We have another journey to be on. So just notice that flow. And for just a moment, notice if there's a little bit more flow than you have noticed before. It's always interesting to me. We tend to inhabit the spaces in us that are the places where we think we are broken. We are 98% pretty doggone good. Things for most of us are going pretty well. But often there's this 2%, like, I wish I had this much more money, or I wish I had a little bigger place. And we miss the fact, like, oh, I have people in my life who love me. I have a home to be in. I have food to eat. In the place I just moved from, it felt very small at some point. I picked it for COVID. It was a little writer's retreat, a little bigger space. And I would find moments where I was like, oh, this place is so small. And then I would walk down the street and I would see homeless people who are living in tents. And I would think, who am I to complain that I have not a big enough place when folks are living in tents that are 4x6 on the street? So just allowing yourself to notice where flow is already happening, and then perhaps allowing yourself to deepen your experience of it. And finally, now that you can feel the flow, I'm assuming you all have some sense of this, I want to invite you to notice a third truth. This is the one I said, if you're doing well with money and you can't figure out why you're not able to expand, this is probably why. You may have already noticed that we are connected to the life systems on the planet. That means we generally follow the rules of life. Now, humans are phenomenally interesting with this. I've gotten to work with people for 25 years now, and I cannot tell you how many times people come in and it's as if they were abstracted from all the rules of life. Somehow humans get a free pass and we don't have to follow any of this flow. But in fact, when we understand that we're part of nature rather than outside of it, we can notice a fundamental truth. Energy needs a place to go. Energy needs a place to go. If you want to gather water, there needs to be a reservoir. Now, a little bit of what I've been opening the door to for you already is the notion, and I didn't explicitly say this, but I'll go ahead and say this now, is that you are the channel. You personally are the channel through which money flows, through which energy flows. So the more you expand, the more you notice, the more you allow, the more that can flow, but it still needs somewhere to go. Sometimes when people come and they say, I need to make this $1 million, and I say, oh, so what do you want to make that for? And they say, oh, well, I just need it in the bank. That's like a stagnant pond. If you put $1 million or you put a bunch of water in a stagnant pond for long enough, it will actually breed disease. There will be mosquitoes and all kinds of germs and things that actually make people sick. But if we let the water move, the water stays clean. Water stays clear. So when somebody says to me, oh, I just need to have it so I can wrap myself in security. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with security. Actually, I teach inside of this work that there's a level of security we want to have for ourselves so we can relax. But we need something bigger. We want more. So in my mind, our reservoir is our sense of purpose. Our sense of purpose is really what allows money to have a place to go. So that purpose, that which is bigger than us, that gives us meaning and animates us. So I want you to take a moment. We're going to do a little something with this in your mind. Take a moment and notice what your purpose is. Write it down. And I really mean take a moment and write it down. Get it outside your body. Even if you put it on your phone, if you don't have a piece of paper, if you don't have a piece of paper or phone, use your finger and just write it on the table or the air in front of you. I can explain later what that does and why, but it just will help. And I'll give you a hint. Your purpose will need to be bigger than you if you want to create a place for money to flow. For me, this has been for about 15 years. The purpose has been to gather and empower the tribe of healers. Actually, longer now, but a little longer than that. Recently, this has evolved, actually because of the work I've been doing and because of COVID, to create a center for learning that harnesses the power of the brain and spirit. And so a lot of what I've been doing recently with my collaborations has been to create a new model in the personal development world that's based on collaboration. It's part of why I'm excited with what Honey's bringing people into these conversations so we can collaborate and play together. For those of you who don't know, if there's nothing that you can write on your paper, you're like, I'm not sure. It's okay. We can work with this in a few minutes. A purpose, by the way, is not my purpose is to make $1 million. That's just my purpose is to have energy. What is the energy fueling? But for those of you who do know, I'd like you to begin just by take a few breaths and imagine out in front of you an image of that purpose fulfilled. That purpose fulfilled. For me, that's a center for learning where people are gathered, studying, exploring, dreaming, and playing. And let it be as real as you can. Add in any details that will let you feel it. Absolutely feel this. There you are, whether it's to create an opportunity for other people, to build something extraordinary, just see it in front of you as if it were so. Take about 3 breaths into this beautiful, purpose-filled life that you are designing for yourself. And when you're ready, simply take a breath, allowing yourself to notice the flow of life moving through you. In and out, even as we see that purpose out there. And you may even notice that your breathing deepens as you pay attention. And when you're ready, begin to imagine breathing life on the exhale into the image of your purpose, just like it was a balloon. With every breath out, the energy filling up your purpose. And your purpose will have an inhale and an exhale as well. The inhale will be as it takes in the energy you give it, and the exhale will be the good it does in the world. To see yourself inhaling and exhaling, breathing into your purpose, the purpose inhaling and exhaling, part of this beautiful flow of life. Just a few breaths here. And just for fun, because we can, imagine that there are other people who you have shared your purpose with. When I tell people, I'm all about creating a center for learning, will you come help me? All of a sudden, more people are breathing life into that purpose. So allow yourself to imagine that you have excited and inspired people around you by this beautiful purpose of yours, and that they too are breathing life into this purpose. It's amazing how much easier it gets when we join together. Beautiful African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. The same is true if we breathe together. We simply allow life to fill this purpose. Hmm. And allow yourself to continue gathering folks in your mind to energize your purpose until you can see it reaching completion. And you know you have done a good job. You go, oh, I did that. Look what we've created in the world together. Oh, take a few more breaths here. Just noticing this connection, this flow, and allowing yourself to bring that image into your heart. You've already begun to breathe life into this purpose, and it may change. We can choose our purpose. We don't have to be chosen by it. You may be with this purpose for a while and evolve into something else, choose something else, but just allow this breathing into the purpose you have now to be held in your heart. And just notice, if you want to create a greater flow, you have to have a greater purpose. Now, I've just been introducing some of the absolute most basic concepts that take me 6 weeks to teach. So I want you to know, yes, they're about money, but more importantly, they're about life and how we can relate to it. At the end of the day, the reason that money is interesting to me to teach is because the way we treat money is usually the way we treat life. And when we use money as a spiritual pathway, as a gateway to evolution, and we begin to change our relationship to money, we begin to change our relationship to life, with money included. So I hope you'll take just a moment before we move into playing together and jot down any insights or ahas that you got from our activation, our remembering together. I'm really excited for Honey to lead us through whatever emerges in this space. Your questions, her questions, our explorations. You can even say, that's craziness, I disagree with it all. That's okay. That's how we learn. I'm not somebody, if you've known me more than 2 or 3 seconds, you know that I'm not somebody who will do anything but enter with curiosity. So if you disagree, I'm going to ask you questions and I'll learn from you. Because for me, I learn as much from you as you ever could learn from me. There's so many more of you. How could I not learn more from you than you've learned from me? So just finish writing whatever observations. You can keep going the whole time. And I just want to thank you for going through this little process with me. It's slow, it's gentle. The one thing I'll tell you is you may have some interesting dreams. We're doing a process of melting into. I am not a breakthrough guy. I don't need to break anything. You're not broken. We're all whole. For me, the Buddhist concept of knocking the dust off the eyelids is much more appealing, so that we can notice the Buddha nature within us. That's all we've been doing. Just noticing that we are connected to flow. Not only are we connected to flow, we are flow. I'll give you one last phrase that has been really appealing to me. As I've been designing Prosperity Evolved, I've had one concept keep coming up over and over and over in the process of the conversation, which is, we are all simply energy slowing down long enough to have an experience. We're all simply energy slowing down long enough to have an experience. When we play in that space, which is really what this Taoist, this movement of energy concept is really about, we notice that we're all energy, and we can play in wholly different ways than what we have thought the rules have been, and in ways that are so much more satisfying, connecting, and life-giving. So thank you for letting me play a little bit. And Honey, I want to turn the steering wheel over to you again.